Thank you, Pastor David. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Semi, and there are two people assigned to actually share with you this morning a bit about thought-provoking questions that will help us throughout this morning's program. I'd like to invite another gentleman to come up and maybe introduce himself, Daniel.
Yeah, good morning. My name's Daniel. As you can see, I'm not the pastor here. I'm not the pastor, so we're going to be throwing some questions out to you guys as well, and see what you guys think about. It's just a bit of an introduction. Who are we and why we're here, kind of thing. Yeah, so hopefully you enjoy it.
Thank you, Daniel. Now, just a few housekeeping rules. If you'd like to use the washroom, for the ladies, there's a door just in the back there, the room there. And for the gentlemen, it's out on the other side of the building, and also for those with special needs, we have one right at the front of the entrance. So if you'd like to use the washrooms, you now know where it is. If you'd like to get a drink of water, please get a drink of water in the kitchen as well. So that's part of our housekeeping this morning. And just a very special reminder, if you have your mobile phones with you, just like to switch it down to silent mode. That would be really nice. Thank you. We'll invite the youth to come up. They're going to be sharing with us two of their songs that prepared for this special program. We hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
Morning, church. My name's Amanda. This is Gigi, the other instrument. We've just picked a song today that kind of, if you don't know it, enjoy the lyrics. But as you listen, you'll hear some of the reasons why we worship our Lord, and I hope it gives you some encouragement. If you know the song, please join with us.
Worship His holy name. Seems like never before. Oh, my soul, I worship Your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing a song again. Whatever may come or whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. So Lord, my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name. Sing like never before. Oh, my soul, I worship Your holy name. Rich in love and just slow to anger. Your name is great and Your heart is kind. For all Your goodness I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons for my heart to find. Bless the Lord, my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name. The end draws near and my time has come. Still my soul will sing your praise unending. 10,000 years and then forevermore. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Seems like never before. Oh my soul, I worship Your holy name. And I worship Your holy name. As I worship Your holy name.
Thanks, guys.
What are the next? Which one? Because I was talking about.
Good morning. I'd just like you to bow your heads as we talk to Jesus in prayer. Dear Lord, this morning we just want to thank you for the beautiful day. Thank you, Lord, that you give us a day of rest each week, that we can come and rejuvenate, that we can spend time with loved ones and with you. We pray, Lord, this morning that you'll be here with us. You've promised that, and we thank you for that promise. Lord, this morning we think of our friends and their families and loved ones. I pray a special blessing for them too. Pray, Lord, that you'll take us this day. Lord, we ask that you'll come into our hearts and into our lives. We pray, Lord, that you'll be with those who are presenting this morning, that we may gain a glimpse of you. So thank you again, Lord, for this day. Thank you for the beautiful day. Thank you for friends and loved ones. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
There is a hole in the universe, and it threatens each of us with its destructive power. I'm not talking about the mysterious black hole in the center of our galaxy that devours everything around it in a whirlpool of gravity. Or the supervoid, a cold, barren cavern in space, so massive it drains energy from any light that passes through. No, this hole, so potentially dangerous, is located much closer to home. For deep within every human heart, there is a spiritual void and a haunting emptiness that breeds anxiety, discouragement, fear, and an unquenched longing for true happiness and purpose. The philosopher Pascal called it the infinite abyss, and it's a vacuum we try to fill in 1,000 different ways. We race through life in frantic pursuit of material possessions, financial security, meaningful jobs, entertainment, personal recognition, and escape from the pain and struggles of everyday life. But each of these attempts is, at best, a temporary fix. For the hole in our hearts can never be permanently satisfied by any created thing. 2,000 years ago, God entered the world to fill the hole forever. His solution? A death and resurrection with the power to transform our lives. Now, that's a difficult concept to grasp, but maybe this will help. In the original Greek of the New Testament, the word for transformation is metamorpho. It is the root of the English word metamorphosis, the term used for an extraordinary event that occurs in nature. A caterpillar, earthbound, painfully slow, and virtually blind, inches its way through life for a few short weeks, then encases itself within a chrysalis. Here inside a paper-thin shell, the caterpillar's body is broken down, cell by cell. This is no death wish. Instead, the insect's deconstruction is the gateway to an entirely new way of living. In a matter of days, the biological structure of the caterpillar is completely rearranged, and the results are breathtaking. This incredible change is a metaphor for an even greater transformation God can perform in each of us. The metamorphosis of our heart, mind, and spirit. Just consider His promises to anyone who turns from sin and accepts His gift of salvation. And the Lord said, "Look, I am making everything new. I will replace your heart of stone with a heart that is sensitive to me. I will renew your mind and give you a future filled with hope. Come, you who are weary, and I will give you rest. For I know your hardships and care about your sufferings. I will be your safe place in times of trial. I will forgive your sins and remember them no more. In this world, you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world."
Did you enjoy that? It's quite breathtaking, really. Change, colours. The question for us this morning is something that we want to put out there is, why be a Christian? For many people, you come across, they'll probably give you different answers. Dan will have a different answer. For me, a lot of people have different experiences in their journey. And a lot of times, we come up with different things, like being a Christian. A lot of people will say, oh, it's because my parents were Christians. That's because somebody in the family is a Christian. Maybe an uncle is a Christian. So you'll get all kinds of answers. What are your thoughts on that, Daniel?
That's a good question. All right. For me, why be a Christian? There's a couple of problems with Christianity. First, we all suffer loss as well, as much as anybody else. We have the same problems. We have the same problems with anger, with finances, with everything that goes on in the world. We get the same problems. So why would we be a Christian? It's a little bit of a question, isn't it? For me, Christianity provides a couple of things. One is peace. I can give it all over to God and go, you know what, God, that's yours. I like to hold on to it myself. But He says give it to Him, and I try and give it to Him, and it does. It actually gives you peace. And the other one is it gives you hope. There's hope. There's something coming. There's something that's really good, and there's something that's been done for me. And so another one is thankfulness. Because God's done it for me, I have a reason to be thankful. I don't have to go through the world proving myself, proving that I'm better than anybody else, climbing the tree of society. I am who I am, and it's thanks to God that I'm that person. So that's a start.
The other thing that comes to mind is the longing that we have. Sometimes the longing of being in a community, being in a family, and also knowing somebody. And that's what Christianity, to me, clearly speaks out. And this is why I'm a Christian, that longing making sense of reality. This is some of the things that we go through in life. We all have different experiences. Also, it points to something. For me, being a Christian points to something like creativity. You can look in nature. Everywhere that you go for a visit, or maybe for a tour, traveling somewhere and you see something beautiful. That's amazing. It points to a great designer. Just like what we have right now. Somebody designed a chair. Somebody designed this microphone. The phone that you're holding. Somebody designed that. It doesn't just, in an explosion of a big bang, it just pops out like that. It actually points out to design.
Can I just jump in there? I think a couple of the really big things for me also are relationship. God has given us a desire to have a relationship with each other, and also a relationship with something higher, something unknown, if you like, than what we can experience. Now, when that relationship also comes forgiveness, and I don't know if you've ever done anything wrong in your life, I have, and achieving like true forgiveness when you're really sorry for something and you feel all of a sudden that you are forgiven, that's a really powerful force. And I've felt that myself personally, and it's a personal relationship and a personal thing. Something else why I'm a Christian is because it's experiential. It's not just all head, it's not all heart, it's a little bit of both. And I remember, I just wanted to share something quickly with you. When I was 21, I lost my brother in an accident. I had an accident at work with my father and passed away. And that was hard. It was very hard. Still is a little bit hard. But I can remember, I was very close to God at the time, and I wasn't thankful for it, I can tell you that much right now. I don't know the reason, but it goes on. But I can remember this vividly, 100%. As I was at the gravesite and they were lowering his body down, I felt this force come around my body and just hug me. And there was nobody there, my friends were next to me, but something grabbed around me and it held me tight. And there's only one thing that I can think of that would have done that, and that's God. So it's a personal experience as well as a head and the emotions.
Speaking about personal experience, we have someone that would like to share with us a personal journey. I'd like to invite Miriam Mibisu to come up and share with us that journey.
Good morning, church. My name is Miriam Mibisu. I wasn't brought up in an Adventist home, but to become an Adventist is through Emmanuel, my husband. So, in my journey as an Adventist, it was 3 years in my journey, walking with Christ, when tragedy hit me. So when you are a new believer, there are two things which happen in your life. It's either you are drifted away from God, or you'll be brought closer to God. It depends with your faith in Christ. So what happened is, tomorrow it will be 13 years when this incident happened. So, I was just lying on the hospital bed. So it was like I was involved in an accident. I think most of you know my story. So, coming from theater, recovering from anesthesia, when I opened my eyes, the person who was beside me was Emmanuel, my husband. And the first words which came out of my mouth was to him, "Why me?" And he took hold of my hand and he said, "Miriam, you don't need to question God. God saw it right for this situation to happen to you." So, 3 years in my walk with Jesus as an Adventist, that time you'll be learning new things, and you'll be learning bit by bit the love of God, and you'll be learning some truths. So imagine 3 years in my experience walking with God, and tragedy just hit me like that. So that moment when Emmanuel said, Miriam, you don't need to question God, I don't know where the power came from. I felt the presence of God that moment. You know, I like the verse in Psalms 121, verse 1 to 2. If you can open your Bibles. I think I'm not going to take much time. I'll just cut the story short. So it's Psalms 121, verse 1 to 2. It says, I'll lift up my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heavens and the earth. That moment, I know if it's the Holy Spirit or what. That's when I went into the battle with God. You know, I like the story of Jacob. That is in Genesis 32, it's 24 to 29. When Jacob wrestles with an angel, I'm not going to leave you until you bless me. That was the story with me. You know, that moment, if it was a physical fight, you could see really dust racing up like this. Or if the ground is covered with grass, there will be no grass left. Because I was wrestling with God. I need you to heal me. So, thank God for the writings of Ellen G. White. I know most of us, we don't want to read Ellen G. White's books or readings. As for me, there is a book called Health and Health, the Ministry of Healing. There is a chapter, The Touch of Faith. That chapter, you know, it's about the woman who was bleeding for 12 years until that woman grabbed the garment. You know, at my place, we watched this cartoon with my kids. I still love that cartoon. It's about the woman who was bleeding for 12 years. You know, it's in a cartoon version. So when she was stretching the hand to touch the garment, it was in a slow motion like this. The moment she touched the garment, there was the sound like boom. You know, it's like power in touching the garment of Jesus Christ. So I usually watch that one even up to now with my kids. And there is a lady, Women Ministries, Dorcas, who brought that book for me. Lying 3 weeks in hospital bed, reading that book. You know, it hastened my recovery. Within 3 weeks, I was okay. You know, there are the trials which brings us close to Jesus. Someone said, thank God for the trials and troubles. If it were not for them, we would hardly know him. All things work for good for those who love God. It's in Romans 8, verse 28. Sometimes we don't understand these things. But what I know is, thank God, because my faith in that 3 years was anchored firmly to God. Because either I was about to be drifted away because I was a new believer, so I was brought closer. Things happen in life, things changes. You know, sometimes if you lose someone in a tragic situation, especially if a child, husband or a wife, most people, they are drifted away from God. They say, where is God? Why are these things happening to me? So we should know Romans 8, verse 28, all things work for good for those who love God. And also, things changes, tragedies happens, like family members die. One thing which remains, God is still God. He remains God. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miriam.
Alright, so we're just going to do a quick little shoot through, I guess, the story of salvation as quickly as you can possibly do it. Normally this would take a lifetime, but we're just going to shoot through really, really fast. If I'm boring you, put your hand up and I'll move to the end, and thank you for coming. No, but well, I'll try and move it on pretty quickly. Just the basics. There's three real basic heart points of the story of salvation, really. The first one is, how did it all begin? So, and I'm going to ask you guys some questions. So I don't want you sitting there being little passive, mute people. I'm going to ask you some questions and get your ideas as well, because I have my ideas. Pastor David will have his, you'll have yours. We're not actually told everything. The Bible's only this thick. So if we were told everything, I don't know, I remember the Encyclopedia Britannica, which had a tiny note about everything, and it was only about this big. So, the beginning. Right back at the beginning, we're told, the Bible alludes to the fact that there was war in heaven. That everybody was working well together. It doesn't tell us how long this was happening. But everyone was working very nicely together. And then God was the captain of the ship. But then the first mate, known as Lucifer, started to get a little bit unhappy with the situation. And he started grumbling and thinking, well, why can't I be the captain? I want to be the captain of the ship. I'll make a great captain. Let me be captain. So he started talking amongst other people around, other angels or beings or whatever they might have been. And they started listening to him. And it doesn't go into the dialogue exactly what he said, but based on what we read later on, what he says to Adam, you can guess that he was asking lots of questions. How is this fair? Why is this happening? Why wouldn't God do something like this? So that's right back at the beginning. But my question is, and I guess this one comes up nice and straight away. If it's perfect, why on earth is he grumbling? I'm going to ask you guys this. If everything's perfect, why would Lucifer grumble? Any ideas? Just pop your hand up if you want to. Excellent, thank you. We have a participant.
I think he could have been jealous and resentful.
Yeah. So jealous and resentful. Anything else?
Anything else?
He also wanted the power. He saw God got all the acclaim and he was like, I want that.
Greed.
Anyone else? I'd like to suggest that we actually ask him.
I think his attention started to come to self. So I think selfishness started to love for self rather than love for God. It became stronger than his love for God. He forgot that he was a created being, wanted all the powers that God had.
That's a great answer. Thank you, Master.
So I couldn't help myself. I had to find myself in Isaiah chapter 14, and verse 13. It says, "For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into the heavens. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God, and I will sit on the mount of the congregation."
Excellent.
Thanks. So, all of those things, you're right actually, but my question still is like, but how could he do that if everything was perfect? And I'm not sure that we're actually going to get the answer this side of heaven, but it does just tell us that Lucifer sinned, and as Toad said, his eyes off Jesus and put his eyes on himself and wanted the power. And then it says there was war in heaven. Now, I don't imagine there were Scud missiles or anything like that. My imagination goes to lightning bolts and pitchforks, but that's probably thanks to Warner Brothers. But in my own house, my children, sometimes I give them a really great day. Like, this has been a really great day, and we've done everything they've wanted to do. And towards the end of the day, I'm so bored. What? I imagine that's God is like, what? What's wrong with you? So, yeah, how can people grumble in a perfect situation? I don't know, but we tend to manage to be able to do it, and the devil also, Lucifer, he started with, managed to do that as well.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people also go through the same experience. Maybe at work, you'll have, maybe friends or co-workers who will probably start whinging about something about that person, and sometimes you create a conflict. It's similar to what actually happened, and sometimes as people we often get carried away with those issues, and it doesn't actually help the situation. kind of fosters the problem, and it develops this very toxic situation. So these are some of the things that you can draw parallel to what actually happened in heaven. If everything is perfect, I mean, you will have things that are set up at work that works marvelously, but then you will have situations where things don't work the way that you want it. And sometimes these are the kind of things that we learn as we experience things through life. We'll go to Dr. Isaac to
While you wander down there, I'll just fill in a little bit more. So, how could somebody grumble in a perfect situation? It seemed that he was fairly convincing, because the Bible tells us he took a third of the angels with him.
Pastor mentioned it, but I just want to add that the desire to do it my way, I don't like to boast around. That thing is still with us today, and it could have been there. The desire to do it his own way, didn't want to boast around.
Thank you. Yeah, the next question is, let me click it. How could God allow it to happen? So, Lucifer does the wrong thing. God had a couple of options that he could have done right there and then. Why would God allow that to happen? So I'm going to ask you guys that. Why on earth did he let it happen?
Because he gave us all free will. That would be one explanation, and he loves everyone regardless. So regardless of how Lucifer turned out, he still loved him. Thank you.
And one thing I think is great is God isn't controlling. Like, He wants us to follow Him because we love Him and we want to be with Him. And so, you know, that's a gift that someone wants to be with God because they love Him.
Awesome answers. What would it be like if God did say, you know what? You've done wrong, off with your head, that's it. What kind of a being would he be considered if that was the case? Alright.
He would be seen as a God that's not loving, and they would probably compare him to the devil.
Good, excellent answer, yeah. So yeah, how could God allow it to happen? So if it happened and God said, right, that's the end, it would be like a Pol Pot or a Stalin or somebody like that, who is worshipped or revered because they have to be rather than because they want to be. I don't know about you guys, if you've got kids, I've got kids, I don't really want them to fear me and do the right thing. I want them to love me and do the right thing. And I believe we get that from God as well. Next question. Do I have next question?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
It also allows for the situation in which we find out what God is like. We see more of His character than we ever would have. It's rather like a parent with a child. The mode of their disciplining the child indicates more fully the character of the parent.
I think a very important part of this whole story is that nobody really understood sin or selfishness when it started. And it wasn't really to the cross that I think the universe could see that Satan's way was not the right way and God's way of love, and giving us a choice to follow Him. And if God hadn't worked in the other way, it would have brought doubt, fear and lots of feelings, and the rebellion would have continued even if He destroyed Satan.
The other thing I wanted to add is even in a family situation, the child has done something atrocious and the child needs to be punished. If as a parent you administer punishment to this child, the other children are watching. Sometimes they will actually feel like, oh, that is too harsh on a sister or brother. They might not speak. They go away feeling like, this was not right. But if the parents takes time to show and get the other children and everyone else to understand the problem, what the dangers and all that. Then even if punishment is administered, it will actually be understood and appreciated, so that that is not considered a tyrant, as someone has put it nicely.
Thank you. One of the most interesting titles that the devil has gained for himself is the accuser of the brethren. He didn't start accusing recently. He accused God of certain things, of wanting to perform it without questions. And so it was the character of God which was under attack in heaven. Unfortunately, a third of the angels had actually believed. They thought, oh, yeah, he's saying the truth. And so it could have fitted into that stereotype very well if God actually chopped off that rod immediately. We have had to go through all this history so that the character of God will be vindicated, so that all creation shall witness and say, yes, indeed, God is love.
Thank you. We'll have to fast forward a little bit. Garden of Eden, we all know the story. Adam ate the fruit. God said you can have all the lollies that you want, but only the red ones. So he chose the red ones. And then we fell, and sin has been manifest ever since. But like somebody said, sin shows the character of God more fully because you can see what the other side is like. It also makes me feel a little bit warm and fuzzy inside when I see that a third of the angels were tricked. So every time that I do something wrong, I'm like, you know what? I got done by the best tricks that there is, but God still loves me, and that's cool. We'll move on to the next part of the story. So the fall is the start, then the best news. Sammy, you want to take this bit?
This part is, who is Jesus? Now, many of you will also come up with different answers. It's a question that's kind of loaded. From your personal experience, who is Jesus to you?
My big brother. My big brother.
All right, my big brother. Anybody else? Who is Jesus?
I refer to Jesus as the big fella, and he's my Lord and Saviour.
Anybody else?
He's my Redeemer, and he's my friend.
Sometimes when we are asked that question, it can also open up other questions as well. Is God real? Is what we know about Him really true? What does He have to do with my life? Or just a few things that can pop into your head when you're being asked the question. The Bible may not have every question about God, and will often lead us to ask more questions, but I think one that springs to mind is the one by C.S. Lewis, a very well-known Christian author, who wrote of Jesus that either this man was and is the Son of God, or else a madman or something worse. You can shut him up for a fool, or you can spit at him, or you can kill him as a demon, or you can fall at his feet and call him your Lord and Savior. Now, the Apostle Peter's confession of him as the Messiah and the Son of the living God, which is found in the book of Matthew, clearly tells us that he has power to change lives. He's unique because he has, two worlds that collide in him: heaven and earth, the divine and human. Yes, his name is above all names. Star breathing, a lot of people call him storm calling miracle worker, who has power second to none. But he's also human, a personal friend who knows us, what we're going through, and what we care about us. And that's why the Bible also calls him Emmanuel, which means means God with us. Is that clear to you? Are there any other thoughts that you'd like to share?
It's interesting, I was having a look this week at who is Jesus, and there's an awful lot of stuff on the internet at the moment trying to disprove that he even actually existed as a person. Which I thought, well, that's pretty interesting. Where would this church come from? If Jesus doesn't exist, why would they make it up? So I thought, let's have a look at some others. So I went and had a look at Muhammad. No question there. I went and had a look at Buddha. No question there. And I started thinking, why is it so scary that Jesus was a historical figure, but not these other people? And I guess the answer's out there, but for me the answer is because he claims to be the actual Lord and Messiah, and he claims to have risen from the dead. That's what makes it such a powerful and scary historical figure. There's plenty of evidence outside of the Bible to validate that Jesus existed, like heaps of it.
And the other thing that comes to mind, that he's the central figure of Christianity, and that's something that answers that question a bit. Who is Jesus? We'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, I think it's just important that we touch on what Jesus did when he was here. So Jesus' whole project to come here was to save us, was to take on our sins, our wrongdoings, all the things that we do that deserve punishment, take them onto himself, and defeat Satan in that very place, and then move on. So we actually have free choice now. We don't have to go and do sacrifices or anything like that. He's taken it on himself. And there's a whole study that you can go into. I love my history. I really love history. And I've looked up the cross, and I've looked up Roman history and how it all occurred. And the actual what Jesus went through isn't like, oh, he died on the cross. Not even close. I won't go into it all now because it's a whole couple of hours that you can go through this, but there's an awful lot of... The Romans were experts at not killing people, almost killing them. And one of their worst tortures was what Jesus went through. Well, two of them actually, was the whipping as well. Alright, but the next thing's really cool. I really like this. This is... Look out. Heaven. Heaven's what I went too far. Heaven. The cool thing about heaven is we're going to spend an eternity floating around on a cloud playing a harp. Isn't that exciting? Who wants to go and do that? Yeah?
Sorry, I wanted to just mention something quickly about Jesus before we go to the next one. I look at him as my example. He went while he lived here and suffered the same hunger, cold, tiredness that we suffer. Even the temptations that we go through, he gave an example that I could follow to be able to overcome those challenges that I meet. That to me is extremely encouraging, because I do meet challenges. He says he's our brother. Someone said he's our brother who feels, who knows my feelings, who knows my foibles, who knows my weaknesses, who knows those challenges that I meet, and he's provided an example and a way of escape.
Thank you. So heaven is depicted in cartoons and everything as a fairly boring place that you wouldn't really want to go to. And doesn't excite me very much floating around playing a harp. I've never actually heard a harp. People say it's beautiful, but I've not heard it. But it doesn't blow my mind. The question is though, does God actually want us there? Yes or no, and why? There's a couple of questions for him. Does he want us there? Yes or no, and why does he want us there? Got any thoughts on that?
I think one interesting thing about Jesus is he wouldn't have gone through all that he did if he didn't love us with an incredible love which is we can't fully comprehend. He wouldn't have promised to come back unless he wants us to be there. He wouldn't have put all the promises and all the power in heaven and earth which he makes available for us, as he said in Matthew 28, unless he's giving us the ability to be there. So he's not only made the promise, he's given us everything we need to walk with Jesus, talk with him, and be ready. And the Bible tells me that Jesus is not only our Saviour, Redeemer, and friend and brother, He's also our High Priest. So He's working for us in heaven now, so we can be there, pardoning our sins, blotting out our sins when the judgment is finished, so that we are worthy through Jesus to be there.
Awesome. So he's trying to make it easier, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
He's trying to make it as easy as possible to get in. And one of the problems is that we're told that you have to be perfect, you have to do the right thing, you have to, there's all these stipulations to get in, but what do you actually have to do to get in heaven? Like what's the big rule that you have to, what's the first step? Yeah, what's the step?
Well, first you have to believe. You've got to believe and you've got to give your heart to Jesus.
To start. What's step 2? Is there a step 2?
We have to have faith to believe.
It says, He died for everyone, that whosoever believes will not perish. Now, believing without doing anything. So the step 2, as you say, is really, if he tells me that, say you tell your child, jump, I'll catch you, jump. Now the child can believe that you catch them. But once believing that you catch them, they need to jump them. So they have to believe enough to actually let go and jump to your arms. That jumping is one. We believe, but then we are also to now go forward in that faith.
Thank you. Yeah, so he actually does want us to be in heaven with him. He's done a lot of things to get us there. Why would I want to go there? Why do I want to go to heaven? What's it got that I don't already have here?
Anybody who has lived in this world and just grown old enough to see a little bit of the experiences that people go through the world will definitely desire a different place because of the number of problems that we see. But what is God promising? Christ promises eternal life. Christ promises a place, a home without problems. Christ promises a place where the sun never sets. So it is a different paradigm altogether. It's a different, what they call the real deal, I think. So who wouldn't want to go there?
For me, it'd be eternal peace, love and happiness. No more suffering, no more poverty, no more any of those negative things. And that's why I'd want to go there.
Brilliant, so thank you.
One thing that I'm looking forward to there is no more temptation, no more pain. I used to work as a beekeeper and I've had a lot of bee stings. And every sting hurt. And that's not the only thing that hurts in life. There'll be no more of that up there. And Jesus, I just love Jesus. He is my friend. Every day it's a comfort to have him there and his promises and his word. And up there I can continue that forever. And I don't know about you, but my brain is not perfect. My memory is not perfect. Up there we'll have a perfect body, a perfect mind. And it's just going to be joy increasing throughout eternity. It's not a boring place because we'll build houses, we'll have gardens, we'll have worship, we'll learn things that we can ask why, we can ask questions, we'll learn so much. It's just going to be an increasing joy throughout eternity.
Thank you. Yeah, in the Bible, in Revelation 21, I think, verse 4, it says to us, there'll be no more pain, no more sorrow, and it goes on, for the old order of things have passed away. And like Pastor David was saying, no more pain, no more sorrow, all of those things are gone. meet my grandparents, meet all kinds of people that didn't quite make it here, meet some of the Bible characters, ask them their story, sit down and listen to Jesus telling stories. There's so many things to do. Get my surfboard and go space surfing. It's unlimited. I'm just going to move on really quickly. Where was I? Really quickly. Is it big enough? Let's just going to stop on that one really quickly. In the Bible, it talks about how big heaven is and is there enough room for everybody? And it only really talks about measurement side, the size of the city, the New Jerusalem. And I've done this with kids. I've drawn it out on a map of Australia, and it's quite large actually. If you put the city of Jerusalem on a map of Australia, as this from memory now, I think it's 2,200 kilometres long by wide by high. So I think that's enough room to fit us all in. New York's nowhere near that big, and there's 20 million plus people living in there. So I think there's plenty of room for us all in the city of heaven. Let's move on, because otherwise we're going to push you guys for time.
Right, this is a special hymn that we'll sing together. Many of you will remember this song in funerals, and maybe gathering in church. It's one of the most loved hymns in the world. When people actually did research, this was actually ranked as the #1 hymn. It was actually written by a slave ship captain. He became an Anglican pastor later on and wrote this song. It was actually something that he heard from the slaves that he was actually taking from Africa to England, and they would hum the song. So he actually based writing the song, Amazing Grace, was from their humming. And what actually happened when he wrote this song actually changed William Wilberforce, who became a force in the UK in ending slavery. So, with his good friend, the youngest British Prime Minister, William the Younger, they actually ended in slavery. And the inspiration from that was from not only Captain Newton, who in fact became a slave as well, apart from because he actually ran away and became a slave as well. He actually learned the hard way. And from there, his journey started with God and continued until he wrote one of the hymns and served in the church for a very, very long time. So let's open up our hearts and sing this very, very amazing song called Amazing Grace. Let's all be upstanding.
shining as the sun, with glorious days to sing God's praise, than when we first begun.
Thank you. So we see it. Fake news. It's become sort of a very hip thing that everybody hears every now and then. I think one who may be famous would be Donald Trump calling journalists, writing fake news and all that. But it seems like fake news has been there for a very, very long time. If you look back in history, it's been going on through the ages, and you can actually trace that back to the time when Jesus walked the earth. While he was on his journey with his disciples, there were many who were spreading news about what he was doing. They did it to John the Baptist, they did it to Jesus, they did it to many disciples. So this is nothing new. It's been going on throughout the ages, fake news. Now Daniel, we had talked about this last night, about how this ties in with a lot of things that's happening now in this world today. And one of it that really comes and springs to mind is the day of rest.
Yeah, fake news. Newsflash. I meant to grab some Monopoly money when I came out this morning, but as I was trying to push the kids out the door, I neglected to figure out. If I gave you a Monopoly $100 bill, hand up if you'd go down to the shop and try and spend it. Nobody. Why not? Why wouldn't you go and try and spend that Monopoly $100 bill down at the shop?
Because I'd be laughed at.
Yeah, you'd be laughed at, because it doesn't look like anything like the real thing, does it? Counterfeit. If you're going to spend a $50 note down the shop, it needs to look exactly like the real $50 note. And that's what the devil's been doing since he's dropped anchor here on the earth, is he's been, for everything that God set up, he's set up a counterfeit. So it looks and sounds quite like the real thing, but there's just a couple of lies mixed in there, and that makes it dangerous. Yeah, so we're going to jump on. Seeing you're at a Seventh-day Adventist church, we're going to jump straight in onto the day of rest. Yeah. So I looked this up from a non-biblical perspective to start with, because I always like to get the other side. And scientifically, our body is designed to work 6 days and have 1 day of rest. And these are the advantages, according to science, that a day of rest gives us. It reduces our stress, gives you a chance to move, reduces heart disease, I'm going to fly through this, boosts your immune system, you sleep better when you have time off, it adds years to your life, it restores your mental energy, it equals more creativity, you're more productive when you return to work, you focus better, your short-term memory improves, and you've got a better chance of enjoying your job. So that's pretty good. Whether you do it on Saturday or Sunday or Wednesday or Friday or Thursday, it says if you have 1 day off that you get rid of all other things, science says this is the health benefits to your body. Now, in the Bible, it talks about having a day of rest. God worked 6 days and had the 7th day off. And Satan's taken this and gone, that's a great idea, we should have a 7th day off. And a lot of people suggest that the 7th day is no longer valid because it can be any day of the week. I'm going to chuck this out to you first before I attempt to attack it. Would anybody have any suggestions as to why it matters which day that we worship and why a counterfeit is important or the real day is important? Okay.
There's only 1 day of the week that God blessed. The other 6 days were not blessed by God alone. So you can have that day off, but you don't have it off with God's blessings.
So not only did he bless it, but he sanctified it also and made it holy. So he didn't do that with any other day. Anything else? Anybody else?
It would be great if everyone had the same day off, because then everyone wouldn't be making everyone else work, and the world would be a peaceful place.
If a parent makes a rule in the home, the child cannot change that rule. It is the person who makes it who can actually go and amend it. That's the way countries operate. Parliament makes laws, they must go back to Parliament and change those laws. You can't change what they do. So we do not have the authority to vary that which God has ordained. No. What you saw can change. But God has not changed. We told Jesus the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So if he changes, he has to change himself. Because his character is a changeless God. So if he has to change anything that he has made, he has to change himself.
Yeah, so the Sabbath day isn't, that's what I was going to say, yeah. He didn't just sanctify and highlighted his class as God's holy law. It was classified as a blue law, a law that cannot be changed.
What I wanted to say is that when God created the Sabbath, He created it for men. And when He created it for men, He gave it as a sign between us and God. So if ever you choose to keep whichever day you want to keep, that's not going to be a sign between God and man. So it's just the same as when a husband and wife get married, to put a ring as a sign that you love the person. But if we are going to replace that ring with something else, then it doesn't have a meaning.
I think it's interesting that as we look at the book of Acts, and we look through the New Testament times, and we look at the history of the Christian movement, they followed the example of Jesus. That was their main purpose. They were called Christians because they were always talking about Christ. And if you look at the history, for the first 300 years, all of the Christians throughout the world all worshipped on the seventh day, which we call Saturday, which is quite interesting. A lot of people have Bible arguments for and against, but I think it's important that there's no other day mentioned in the Bible. You can look up every other day. You can look at every Bible reference. And really, it's clear in the Bible. So that's, if we want to follow the Bible and follow Jesus, it's a good example.
We might have to move on with this one, just tie it up and move on, otherwise we're going to run out of time. But yeah, thank you, Pastor Dave. Pretty much the seventh day was set up for man, as somebody said. It's one of the commandments. We don't have the power to change it. But it was also set up as a day to reconnect with God as well. So if he sets up a day, come and spend time with me, and it says God is the same yesterday, today, and forever, which it's Hebrews 13, verse 8. I think it says it in Malachi somewhere as well. Yesterday, today, and forever, He's always the same. Then I'm not sure why it's changed, other than it's a counterfeit for the actual real day. Yeah. Second one, I've been told to wind up really quickly. The other big elephant in the room, the great debate, is creation versus evolution. Yeah. Everybody's heard that. Has anybody not heard of evolution? Yeah. No? Good. We all get taught it at school, don't we? Taught it very solidly, very strongly. Now, again, I looked up some stuff about evolution to try and see what spiritual advantage evolution has to us. So what advantage does it have to advance the human race, in other words? And I looked through a whole bunch of things, and the only thing that I could find, scientifically speaking, the advantage of evolution is that they can fight diseases using the theory of evolution. Nothing else. Creation, on the other hand, and just on this, Sammy, I just want to say, whether you're a scientist, whether you're a Christian, whatever you are, I believe we're all looking for the same thing, and that's an answer to how it began. So they're all looking, all searching. There's that hole there that we talked about before. How did it all begin? And we've all got just as much faith in either of them, I believe, but there's no relationship in the evolution side.
There's another thing too that I'd like to share with you. This was actually Sir Isaac Newton, what he actually said. I mean, he's been called man of science and the man of God. And he said this, points to a design that the most beautiful system of the sun, the planets, and the comets could only proceed from the counsel and the dominion of an intelligent, powerful being. This being governs all things, not as the soul of the world, but as Lord over all. That was something that he wrote in 1776.
creation and evolution are both based on faith. There's no scientific facts that prove either, but facts can be used to support both.
And as I looked at the tree of science, because it fascinates me that the evolutionary tree, you have a whole animal, and a branch in another whole animal, and a branch in another whole animal, and there's nothing in between, and there's nothing proven in between. I'm not going to prove one way or the other to you, because I don't know enough about it, but there's nothing there, there's no evidence for anything there. And if this next thing is an evolutionary jump from the last thing, why hasn't it died out? It doesn't make sense. But that's not what I'm here for. I'm just going to talk to you about what creation does for you. If we believe in the Bible, and that's what we do, creation, one, it gives the idea that there was a designer. Something designed this body. Thank goodness. Something designed the chair. It wasn't God, we designed the chair. But God designed all of this stuff that gives us a design. Second thing is, if there's a design, then you're not here by chance. I'm not here by chance. Then you have value. I have value. It actually gives a whole different way of thinking about life and how it has meaning and value. So we need to run through. There's a whole bunch of other counterfeits there that we won't go into all of them today, but I just wanted to look at the two big ones, creation, evolution, and just the day, considering that you guys are here on Sabbath. Happy Sabbath, everybody. It would be a bit remiss of me not to jump into that one.
Now, the next one is talking to God. It's something that many of us do. For many people, it's something that they do on a regular basis, praying to God, time they communicate with God. It's to maybe share a few things or ask for blessing or maybe traveling mercies if you're going somewhere. And this is a very, very important part of being a Christian, prayers. A lot of times we often overlook prayers as something, I can pray at a different time, but prayer is something that's very, very important for a lot of people. It could be a time that you need just between you and God, a time that you can actually have a conversation with God, just lay it all out. Going through this difficult time, and I just want you to know that I need help. And prayer is something that every one of us have actually said it, maybe to us for strength during a difficult time. You may have lost a family member, maybe a friend very close to you. We all go through the same problems and issues that everyone else goes through in the world. And prayer has been a source of strength for a lot of people. And one of the reasons why a lot of people take prayer seriously, because it sort of gives them that strength they need at a very, very crucial time. Sometimes I often ask the question, what keeps you up at night? And people can say, well, it's worrying. Anxious about what's happening around the world, what's happening around here. And sometimes, for me, prayer is what gets me to sleep. So that's one way for me. It could be a different experience for a lot of people, because we go through day out. There's a lot of worries that we go through, there's a lot of issues that we face nowadays. And for me, that's one way to deal with it, and that's talking to God. How about you, Dan?
Prayer is an opportunity, I think, to give thanks. And if you're thankful, you'll still have worries. But if you're thankful, you can give it over to God and you can continue to worry about it. Or you can give it over to God and actually give it to Him and let Him have it. And it's a really tricky thing from a human nature, or for me anyway, I might be poorer in spirit than you guys, but it's a really tricky thing in human nature to actually give something up and give it over. Now prayer, I think, works in two ways. Sometimes, little example, my eldest girl, when she was 3 years old, and lots of prayers have been answered, but we lived in Palmerston North in New Zealand, which rains probably 367 days a year, and the other day it blows sideways. So her birthday was coming up and she really wanted a sunny day. And it was forecast to rain and almost flood the entire time. And she was praying, dear God, I just want a sunny day. She's only 3. Dear God, I just want a sunny day. Just give me a sunny day for my birthday. I went, little faith of the adults. And the prediction was rain on the Sunday morning for her birthday. We woke up and the sun was shining. It was not predicted to, even on the app. The sun was shining. She had a beautiful birthday. The party ended and the rain came down again. And it's just incredible that God cares individually, one person at a time. And one more thing I think, about God is how providential that He is. Because He gives you things before you even ask for it, before you even know that you need it. Like so many examples in my life, and I'm sure you do, Sammy, and I'm sure you all do. Either I've had a lot of really cool coincidences, or God is real and He actually cares about me. Yeah? And one thing, just recently, about 3 weeks ago, I was out riding my mountain bike and I was at Wiggly's Gorge, and I've never really hurt myself on my bike before. And I was out there and I just getting on my bike and just slipped, and the cog went through the back of my leg. It's got a sexy scar there now. Went through the back of my leg about this deep. And I looked down and my wife was with me. I usually ride by myself or just with a mate or something. And it was on a weekday and everybody was at work. And she was with me and the blood started to come, so she wrapped it in her singlet. I've never seen anybody outside of Wiggly's Gorge. And then on a weekday, less than a minute later, before I even worked out what I needed to do, somebody turned up and they had a bandage that they could wrap it in, and they had a ute across the creek that I could get a lift home in. It's incredible. That's providential. Yeah.
Another good example of that would be the life of Desmond Doss. I'm not too sure whether you've watched the movie Hacksaw Ridge. Desmond Doss, in one of the scenes, they were actually standing before they could mount up that mountain. They had to wait until he finished his prayers, because on that day, as I remember, on Friday afternoon after they got back to their base, his senior officer came to him, I had doubts about you. You were just a skinny guy that joined the military and it caused so much trouble and upheaval for us, and we had to go through the court system for you not to carry a weapon, and you've proven me wrong. And I know tomorrow is your Sabbath, but I want to say something to you. If you don't want to go in tomorrow, I will understand. But if you want to go and say your prayer before we climb up that mountain, we will wait for you until you finish your prayer. And I think the story goes that the colonel actually called them, what are you waiting for? You should get up that mountain. And said, no, we're waiting. And he screams out, what are you waiting for? We're waiting for Private Doss to finish his prayer. So it was until he finished that prayer that they began to climb up that mountain. Now he was awarded a lot of medals from President Truman, but it was a testament of his life and journey, about praying, about his faith and belief. And that's something that all of us will experience in our journey. We'll now invite Warren just to maybe join us later. Now we're going to talk a bit about the church around the world. As you know, we've probably set up churches in a lot of countries internationally, and it's part of a growing community that we have. I mean, we try to live love in action. God loves the world and He wants us to do the same. And for us as Adventists, we are committed to sharing God's life, transforming love. And we want people to get to know God and grow spiritually and serve others practically, and also in effective ways. And that's for us as a church. Not only have we built churches, we've also built schools, which Daniel can share with us a bit about his journey, because he's actually a school teacher.
Yeah, all right. We have one of the largest school systems It's the largest school system outside the Catholic private school education system, and the public obviously is larger because they have the government money. But yeah, the Adventist schools, Australia, New Zealand, and overseas, England, America, and whatnot, plus small schools dotted out through Ireland and whatnot. But the catch cry for the Adventist schools, or the motto, is education for eternity. So we're not just educating for here and now. We're building character, we're building relationships that will last forever. That's what we believe. And our schools are well resourced, and anybody that's worked in a school knows that schools do not make money. They're not money-making machines. They always work in arrears, whether you're in a public school or a private school. They always work like that. So they're not money-making ventures, they're God-serving ventures. And that's how our school system is set up.
And it's the same also that we have hospitals around the world as well. I think one that we have in particular, which is SANS, which is the Sydney Adventist Hospital in Sydney. It's a very big private hospital, and there you go, that's a picture of the hospital in Sydney. Many of the doctors that serve in this hospital are part of a program which is called Open Heart. And they fly to other parts of the world to help with heart problems that a lot of people face. As you know, it's quite expensive to receive some of these life-saving surgeries around the world. And so the Open Heart team, which is something that's coordinated out from the Sydney Adventist Hospital, send people all over the world. In Fiji, in the Pacific, they've been doing it for over 25 years. It's free, and they have doctors from all parts of Australia who come in and join, and that's coordinated out from the Sydney Adventist Hospital office. And that's something that we're blessed with, because they've actually reached out to so many people who actually need help.
Yeah, so our hospital is there for cure, but as a church we're also very big on prevention. We have a message. One of our church founders, Ellen White, believes visions from God on what you should eat, what you shouldn't eat, what you should and shouldn't do, exercise and all of that. And she was laughed at, and the church was laughed at in the early days, but medicine now supports what she said 150 years later. That's good medicine now. And I'm not sure if you've heard of these companies, but Sanitarium, probably haven't heard of that company. They make Weet-Bix, if you haven't heard. They're an Adventist institution. They're a not-for-profit company. So what they make goes back into things like the hospital, things like the schools, and the church to further the work. Interesting though, both Kellogg's and Sanitarium started out of the Adventist church. They were brothers. Kellogg, the guy that did Sanitarium, he was just interested in health. His brother, who started Kellogg's, he was interested in making money, but they've both become very large institutions that I think pretty much everybody has heard of or has eaten of once or twice in their life. I just wanted to just touch on the prevention as well. We have the Weet-Bix triathlons that happen each year throughout towns around Australia and New Zealand. I'm not sure about other overseas destinations, but they go on quite a bit in tertiary institutions also. So we're not a small little tin pot village, quite a community.
We'll now invite Warren just to say a few things about ADRA.
Another part of the Seventh Adventist Church, in response to helping people, was called the Adventist Development Relief Agency. Back in February in 1980, after the loss of our first baby girl who died at 10 days, we thought we'd try and do something to help others as a means of getting over the loss of our first daughter. So we went and worked in refugee camps in Tai Cambodia water for 3 months. That 3 months ended up being 13 years. We ended up starting the ADRA office in Thailand, which we stayed there for 13 years. So in total we worked for ADRA for 25 years. And I'll tell you that we can be very proud of what ADRA is doing around the world. ADRA has two parts to it. It is Adventist development and relief. Relief is in times of what? Times of disaster, man-made or natural disasters. And development is about helping people to become self-sufficient. We've all heard the story, but it sums up well. If you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach him how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. Then you can take that in a few different ways. You can't fish out the pond and things like that. But that's the principle of what helping people is about. You can help people in many different ways. But it's about helping people to become self-sufficient. I'd just like to show just a little clip now of some work of ADRA in one of the 135 countries that ADRA works in. This one I've chose is in Vietnam for my friends.
Well, thank you very much for coming today. We hope you've enjoyed the program. You may have more questions to ask. You're welcome to do that. You're welcome to come here anytime you want to. This place is open for any Christian or anybody who'd like to come along. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you'd like to know more about the Bible, you're welcome to have Bible studies. If you want to know about prophecy, last day events, or just how to be a Christian, you're always welcome to ask us. But we're so glad you came. We really enjoyed your fellowship. Thank you for helping us to eat all the food. We needed a lot of help. But it might be appropriate if we just bow our heads and have a tune of prayer. Heavenly Father, we just want to thank you for Jesus. We thank you for the time we've had together. Thank you how we can think on the Bible and some of the great themes there. And we thank you that we can just trust you to guide our lives. Bless us now as we go our ways. And we pray that you watch over us. And we pray that by God's grace, by faith in Jesus, when He comes, every person here and their families that are represented may be ready when He comes, so we can go home together and learn more, ask more questions, and just learn of Jesus, our most wonderful Saviour. Thank you for hearing our prayer and forgiving our sins in Jesus' wonderful name. Amen. God bless you all. You don't have to go straight away. You can just relax and chat. But thank you very much for coming. God bless you.